Welcome everyone to our webinar today on, it's part of our Advocating for Pre-Sales series. Today it's about increasing your visibility. My name is Kevin Mefford. I'm the head of community here at the PreSales Collective. So working with all of our members to put on these fantastic events and connect people back and forth. We have a great panel assembled today and look forward to hearing from each of them. We'll have them introduce themselves in just a second. Just a few housekeeping pieces up front. First of all, thank you for all the members that are part of the PreSales Collective. By the way, if you're not already a member, please go out and join us, presalescollective.com. We have a very active Slack workspace. That's where you can see all the upcoming webinars, register for any of the other events that are happening, and talk to your fellow pre-sales professionals out there. And then also just a little bit on getting the most out of today's webinar. Be sure to ask questions in the Q&A. The panelists will be able to see those. We'll have time at the very end of our presentation to bring in some of those audience questions, and feel free to be active in the chat. So as things are going on, feel free to discuss it with your fellow attendees, ask any questions, ask any information that you want to get out there. So first off, we want to start off by asking a quick poll just to understand who's out there in the audience, what you're looking for. And so we're going to ask a little bit about your role. If everyone just take a couple of minutes, indicate your role. We just want to understand who's out there in the audience. As the panelists are answering their questions, it gives them the ability to understand, hey, are you just early in your career starting out? Have you been managing teams? Maybe you're looking to join pre-sales. So we'll let that run for just a second. While that's going on, I'll switch over and give our panelists a chance to introduce themselves. So Bonnie, do you maybe want to start off?
Absolutely. Super excited to be here. So Bonnie Alexander, I'm the manager of pre-sales at BotKeeper. And for those that don't know, BotKeeper is a human-assisted artificial intelligence bookkeeping platform where we partner with CPA firms to manage the books of their monthly bookkeeping clients. I'll pass it off to Alicia, if that's okay.
All right. Hi, I'm Alicia Cruz. I'm located in San Antonio, Texas, work out of my home here. I'm a solution engineering manager at Salesforce, specifically for a team of marketing cloud solution engineers within our consumer goods vertical. And I've been in pre-sales for about 6 years now. And then I will pass it off to Virgil.
Thank you, Alicia. So my name is Virgil Delecole. I'm SE leader for the past four years, working on my visibility at the pre-sales over the last 10 years and attending from the City of Lights in France. So a coincidence for a roundtable about visibility? I don't think so.
Thank you all. Looking very forward to the discussion today on a hugely important topic. So a lot of the attendees today, you're in individual contributor roles. So it's critical to you to understand how can you increase your visibility? How do you grow your career, both within your organization and then obviously broader as well. So let's dive into some of the questions. First off, let's just think a little bit about, what are some of the most important things to consider around visibility? And Bonnie, I'll toss that one to you first.
Yeah, I've got a couple things here. First and foremost, know where your interests lie and make them known, right? Today, we're going to talk about how you can make them known, but do you even know what they are to begin with? And what would you be what would you be proud to be associated with? Is there an initiative that you can take up at the company that you're working with so that you can start to get your name out there? Take to social media. Start being part of those circles, right? Similar to all of us here on the panel, as well as myself, I've made it known to Kevin and James that, I want to take part in the pre-sales community and take an active role. From there, I can pass it off to, I think, Alicia, if you've got other things to add.
Yeah, I think, Bonnie, the first point you made around knowing your interests and making them known in your network is key. That's foundational. And just to build a little bit on what you were saying around make them known, what would you be proud to be associated with? When thinking about this for myself and also for my team, I like to take elements of personal branding. So it's knowing those interests, making them known, kind of finding that focus, like understanding your why, but then also figuring out how you take that why and put it into action. So you mentioned networking. That's like number one, that is key. And then for yourself, taking that focus and figuring out like, what is the action you're going to take? What is the output of that action? So how can it be measured or recognized? And then how can you do it consistently? Because that's how you kind of build a reputation and become known for something. And again, like networking is so foundational to this. Not only can your network help you be recognized for, for your focus area or your why, but they can also help you define it and kind of find that niche or that focus area.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. So both of you talked a little bit about it, teams and what's going through. So I guess, next question, how can you speak to your manager about that desire to increase your visibility? So maybe Virgil, do you want to answer that one?
I think you need to speak with her or he with honesty and directly, because it will, in fact, it will be a really good news for her or him. The first person who asked me to be visible was my manager like 8 or 9 years ago, because he was looking for a raise for me, and he told me, I need your help. You must be visible, and this will help me. And I keep that in mind all the time. And today, this is also something I'm asking to my team. Please be visible internally and externally. So it's a real good news for any manager to have people in a team who want to be visible. It's good for the company, for the manager, and for the individual contributor. So that is really great. So don't be shy, don't be afraid, and go for it.
Yeah. And Bonnie, how about you? What would you add in on, how should people go speak to their managers about those desires?
First and foremost, if you don't have a one-on-one and a recurring one-on-one with your manager, I highly encourage you to make that a priority today, to get in their calendar. The only way that you can share your desires, just like Virgil is saying, and make yourself visible, is to take that first step. If your manager hasn't already done that with you, then take the initiative, right? Show that you have that desire, show that you want to be visible, first and foremost with your manager, and then map that out with your manager in that one-on-one. What are those goals? What are those things that you can actually do, or that they can help you guide you to get you started?
Yeah, I think that's a great lead in. So we've all talked a little bit about, find other ways to contribute, where you should go beyond. Maybe Alicia, what are some of those areas outside of a normal job that people should be considering?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a huge list, especially for us in pre-sales, because our job is so multifaceted. But like thinking about that focus area, that interest, that, your kind of your why for wanting to develop a reputation, that's a personal, almost a personal vision or mission to you. So think about like, not just your job, but like, do you like to mentor? Do you like to teach? Do you like to innovate? Is there a particular like facet of product or technology that you're really passionate about? And then how does that translate into action? So that action output consistency formula. And does that then give back to the organization or have positive impact? And I think this is where like a mentor or your network can really help you kind of hone in. So it's almost like, how can you take that interest area and make it something that's impactful, that helps others and has kind of a wide range?
And Virgil, what would you add to that?
A quick win could be also to team with a marketing team. They know how to be visible, and they can teach you a lot of things, and they are always looking for people to be the face of your company and to be on the social media and so on and so forth. So if you want to do this, just give them a call, and then you may find quick way to be visible. This is for the external. Internally, then conversation with the product management, with the R&D are also great way to be visible and fast, because it's your domain of expertise. It's maybe more technical. So the right balance, and going back to what Alicia was saying, why would you want to be visible? And then find the right person to help you, a mentor or a peer or a colleague, and you have people internally that can definitely help you there.
And what about, how do we balance that need to be more visible with, the current workload? The current job still has to get done. Maybe Bonnie, do you want to check in on that one?
Yeah, I would actually throw back a question to the question, and say, who says they have to be independent of each other, right? So similar to some of the things that Alicia is saying, some of the things that Virgil is saying, you've got these elements to make yourself known by first and foremost doing your job and excelling at it, right? When people hear that you're doing well, they strive to want to be around you, they strive to want to work with you. So from there, your visibility is being desired, but also, again, taking an initiative within your current role to, again, get yourself out of just the day-to-day activity and potentially working with cross departments that is going to benefit either one of them, if that's an initiative that you've identified as something that you want to do. But if you're following that path, then it doesn't become work. You're just using your passion as the driver, and it just can become an organic evolution for you. It can open different doors for you. And that's where, again, earlier in the conversation is, what is it? Where do your interests lie? So that it doesn't become work, right? I think when you have a passion for something, it just becomes effortless.
And Alicia, you look like you wanted to jump in on that one. So would love to have you chime in as well.
Yeah, I think Bonnie summed it up perfectly. Like, the only thing I would add to that is, just a reminder is, as you're going down this path, keep focus, because, if you start to become a visible person, if you start to become somebody who's known for contributing and innovating, having good ideas, all kinds of things are going to get thrown at you. But keeping that focus to your core why, your core purpose, is really what helps to achieve balance. And, it brings to mind like kind of somebody on my team who's working towards, becoming a leader. The way that we work that into this person's workload is figuring out ways that they can mentor others on deals or on projects, right? So it's also, like Bonnie said, like, it doesn't have to be outside your, kind of your current job or workload. You can figure out ways to incorporate it into what you're already doing. But I would also say, reminder that focus is really key. There are tons of opportunities out there, but keep your focus.
That's
David,
great.
If
Yeah,
I
go
may
ahead,
add
Virgil.
something just to make the connection with why you should be talking about this with your manager, is that it could be part of your workload. And for example, my team, they all have a goal to spend time on visibility and on marketing activities. So I'm expecting them to spend some of their day-to-day job doing marketing stuff and being visible. So it's also a good reason to have this conversation with your manager to anticipate the management of this workload.
Yeah. So Virgil, you started to touch on a little bit there. As a leader, how do you help your team increase that personal visibility? So you talked about you have that expectation of them. What are some ways that you help the team increase that visibility for themselves?
Well, I truly believe that visibility is key in the pre-sales role today, and it's a goal for them. I'm working closely with the marketing team and sharing names with with this team. Ask this team member to write an article on this topic, and trying to work closely with the marketing plan to involve my team as much as possible. I'm creating connection using my own network to introduce my team to the R&D, the PM, or with PreSales Collective, for example, because definitely this is a booster for your visibility. So I'm leading this topic internally, and this is more or less working because people start seeing the interest, and then I'm expecting them to take the lead. But you need to support the initiative first.
Absolutely. And how about you, Bonnie? As a team lead, how do you help your team get their own visibility?
Yeah, and I think, Virgil, you hit on it as well, right? As long as you're having those recurring meetings with your manager, be curious, ask them questions, be understanding of where they want to go, because it's not, it is going to be, they took that first step, but maybe my second step is gathering some information for them so that they can make an educated decision on, is this something that I want to do? Okay, now that I have the information, let me go public with it so that I can become visible. I do think that there is no harm in saying, I don't want to be visible right away. I do want that information again to make that educated decision. But then once you do, it's, you know, helping them set a foundation of maybe some steps that they can take. So now that they are off and running, they're coming back to you with, okay, hey, I've done this and now I'm curious. So it becomes a little bit of a mentor relationship at that point. But one thing that I read recently, it was on a LinkedIn article, is advise them to choose people to be around that will say their name in a room full of opportunities. So if you're doing something and you're doing it well, and you just don't know how to get there, but you've got some friends that are like, hey, you're great at this. Okay, can you help me with my visibility, right? Can you get me out there? And then I would flip the script on that. Is there someone that you know that can do that for you today? Do they embody any characteristics that you can start to exude today to also help you with your confidence in getting yourself out there from a visual perspective? Not sure if anybody else has anything else to add in there, but those are my 2 cents.
No, I think that's fantastic. And I think it's a great lesson, not only for leaders that are watching this session, but for those individual contributors too. If your leader is not doing those things, it's a chance to go have that conversation in your one-on-ones and start bringing up those things of, you know, hey, manager, I would like you to help me increase my visibility. Here's some things you could be doing as well. So that's fantastic. So let's flip it around a little bit and just think about, you know, how do you increase your team's visibility? So again, thinking as a pre-sales leader, what are some ways that you're doing, not necessarily for those individuals on the team, but for your team as a whole? And I'll throw that maybe right back at you, Bonnie.
Sure. I can't take credit for this one. We had a new sales leader step in at the tail end of, we're in 2022 now, so I think the tail end of 2021. But one of the things that he did was when he announced wins, he announced who the BDR was, who the account executive was, who the solution engineer was, put some information on a slide about the firm that, you know, we're now partnering with, and then those key characteristics, because it really is a village. It's not an individual. And then that information is shared out publicly on our company Slack channel. So again, it's a nice way to get the recognition. I think pretty much everyone on this call or potentially panel has always seen like the cheerleader that is being hoisted up by someone down below, and that's the person that's behind the green curtain, and that's your pre-sales executive, because they don't, or solution engineer, because they're not getting the recognition that they feel they deserve. But that's something in our company I highly encourage. You know, if you've got an opportunity to speak with your manager, speak with your leader, to see if that can be something that can be changed to, again, get you out there. How often are you showing up on the leaderboard? Then you're, you know, instantly getting credibility and visibility easily.
Yeah, I agree with Bonnie. Recognition is key, especially for pre-sales, because we've been working in the background for too long now. So any wins should carry the pre-sales name. And I'm also trying to find specific or new KPI, like working on innovation with the team. If there's a new version with a new feature, be the first to sell it to someone and making noise, or be the first one to sell like 10 opportunities with this specific solution in the world, and then send an email to everyone to say this. It's not only the opportunity, the amount. It's trying to be clever and to find a way to present your team like they wrote 10 articles, they've been involved in the annual events and delivering several sessions, not only in French, but sometimes also in English. And that is great. And it's another way to be recognized for the expertise, for the capability sometimes as an actor. And I'm not saying this to please Shona, but this is also what we're doing. So it's recognition is key. And not only for opportunity we are winning.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, so let's think a little bit about, who are the people we should be looking to? So in other words, who can you go to for help or to serve as a resource? We've talked a little bit about your direct manager, of course, but maybe Alicia, who are some other people that we should be looking toward?
Yeah, definitely. So definitely direct manager and kind of your like second and third line leadership chain, especially if you've kind of honed in on, what your focus area is, what initiative or initiatives you're working on. And there's, like Virgil and Bonnie were just saying, if there's measurable impact, that's a great thing to bring up the chain. But the other thing I would say is like your mentors, like everybody's got kind of formal and informal mentors. Those are people who, like Bonnie was saying, would bring up your name in a room, right? Those are people who can also kind of give you advice and guidance and maybe make you aware of other initiatives or things that are going on. And then, even outside your organization, like, in organizations like this and like PreSales Collective, just going out to that broader network and getting feedback can provide you just a wealth of perspective that you wouldn't otherwise have. So I would say like, definitely your direct leadership chain, kind of your mentors, and then just go out and get some broad and diverse perspectives, because those can kind of help you formulate your ideas, but then also increase your visibility outside of, just your immediate company that you work for.
Alicia, I think you nailed it, because those were the areas I literally was thinking. The help channel on the PreSales Collective Slack channel, the general channel, right? There's two channels right there that you're not only just getting a small group of your peers, but you're getting a global group, right? You started to see all the different areas around the world of the attendees today. Hopefully you're, kind of taking a look at your audience list here and making those connections even on LinkedIn. How can we help you, right? Not to volunteer Alicia and Virgil, but if you've got questions, reach out to us. That's, we're excited, we're invested. That's why we're here today. But I would also add, who are your peers outside of work? Who are your peers inside of work that you can even use as a sounding board? Hey, I was thinking about this. And, can you be my sounding board to ask some questions? What other ideas can they add on top that you didn't even think about, right? They're also in your same space, your same industry. So potentially they've got a couple different outside ideas, and maybe you come as a united front, right? Some might be afraid to do things on a solo basis. So, there's no harm in joining forces with someone else as well.
Yeah, thank you all for that. So just a quick question of thinking through, all right, we've talked about, need to contribute, need to add in, but how do I highlight those contributions effectively? What are some of the best ways to get my name out there in the right way? So maybe Virgil, do you want to answer that one?
Well, you need to build your own network and credibility. So the point is that you need to start at some point. I saw a question in the chat about I'm new in a pre-sales role and I need to build or to share things, but I'm not yet an expert. But you can rely on others, like Bonnie said, and share network, and you can ask people to repost what you are sharing. You can share what you already know, but also what you are learning. You don't need to be an expert to share with others and to learn and to make you visible. And you can, for example, post something, oh, I just read this article and this is amazing and I learned a lot of stuff. You don't need to be the expert in the room, just to raise your hand and to share some ideas and some feedback or to get some information. And baby steps, your network will grow. You will connect to a lot of other people. You can tag people in your post just to get their feedback or to connect to their network. It's a long-term run, a long journey, but you need to start and not to be afraid. You are not expected to know everything or to be the clever guy in the room, just someone who wants to share and learn and want to create connection.
Actually, if you don't mind me chiming in there, I think you brought Alicia's point full circle. Consistency, right? So if you are trying to get your name in the network using LinkedIn, for example, and you're posting that article because it brought you success, now you're building that. But if you're consistently working in that space and sharing things from that space, you're not only educating yourself, but you're educating the people around you. And you will start to see that you're going to build a following base, right? So you weren't an expert going in, but you're now becoming an expert for someone else because you're sharing pertinent details that's making their day-to-day potentially easier. Their knowledge base is growing. So kudos to that. I agree with Alicia and Virgil 100% on that one.
Yeah, and one other thing I'd chime in on just to build on that, Bonnie, because that's like 100%, that's like foundational to this as well. Something I learned from a career coach that I worked with years ago when I was trying to navigate my way through becoming visible and getting promoted and stuff is that it's an exchange. So what are you giving that has impact and value to others? And what you're doing there is you're inviting others in and you're bringing them along with you. So then you're not, because people, I think, they become afraid that they're bragging or ego, their ego's inflating or whatever, but think about it as an exchange. So you're giving or creating something of value. Others are, there's a positive impact on others. They're seeing the value. They're now in your circle and you're bringing them along with you on this journey. And that's also a great approach to take to networking as well, is like, as you start to expand your network, even if you're brand new, like Virgil said, even if you're not the expert, you still have something of value to give. You have a beginner's mind, you have, questions, and that's where the exchange starts.
Yeah, that curiosity, right? I think we were talking about that earlier too. So love that.
Yeah. And I think especially internally, that's absolutely the way to go. And then a little bit from the external perspective, as Virgil was talking about, you don't have to be the expert yet. A lot of companies have materials that you can go share on social media. So it's not necessarily things that you're creating. If you're brand new to the industry or brand new to the company, yes, you don't have the credibility to go out and say, here are my opinions on this. But share some of your company's resources. It's just a way of keeping your name out there, even beyond your organization. Leverage, Virgil has mentioned it several times, leverage your own marketing people. Ask them how you can help promote the company brand, which is also then going to grow your own brand. So we've talked a lot about, the great tips, how to go and do these things, but let's go to the flip side. What if I'm doing all of these things, I've tried all of these pieces, and I'm still not being recognized? Virgil, maybe what's some of your advice in that situation?
It's the best advice is to get feedback. It is key, in fact, for everything you are doing. Looking for feedback all the time should be mandatory, in fact. And if it's not working, just ask people, and very humble, and say, did you saw my email and I didn't get any reply? Why? What do you think? I did post something on LinkedIn and I only get 2 likes. And do you know why? Do you understand why? So first feedback, and then try to look what the others are doing. People who are already successful, like the famous James Kakis, what is it doing to have so many likes in his post? And maybe you can get some inspiration also. It's the 2 options, I would say.
And Alicia, what would you add into that? How can people go out and get recognized if they're trying to do the right things and it's still not happening for them?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Virgil. Like, the first thing to do is go to your network, go to your mentors, and ask for feedback. And then, I would also say, like, staying true to your focus and your goals, kind of reevaluate. Is what you're doing having impact? Is it in front of the right people? Is your action plan, is it effective, or are there some, maybe some improvements you can make? And then I would also say, again, like, networking is really everything with visibility. So go out and do some additional networking. Maybe your current network doesn't include the right sets of eyes, or maybe, maybe you could go outside your team or your company and find others to kind of give you that feedback that you need. So I would say like, and this is a process of constantly evaluating and reevaluating and making tweaks and kind of improving your plan as you go. You're never going to get it right the first time. I think the key is stay true to that core focus, your core goals and your core values, and you'll end up on the right path.
Yeah, that's good. So I want to ask
One
you to
thing-
follow. Oh, sorry, Virgil, if I can jump in
Yeah,
real
I
quick.
just want to ask something. Not everything will work. Sometimes you will fail. It could be an amazing success one time and then a disaster for the next time. So it's not all about you. It's not always your fault, and you will fail. This is happening all the time. And I think you should have in mind how you can measure the success of what you are doing. It's not all about the number of views or like or things like that. What are you looking for when you are posting something or sending an email or writing an article? And how can you measure the real success? Because today we are in this connected world with all the social media, with immediate reaction and comments. But back on time, when you were writing article for the press, you won't get any feedback, not like this. And you will have to wait for the next customer meeting when maybe someone will tell you, oh, I just read your article, that was quite interesting. And then the conversation will be really different. So there is no rush. There is no key to create success all the time, and you will fail sometime.
No, I think that's a fantastic lesson for everything in pre-sales. You're going to fail. Keep testing out things. Keep reevaluating, to Alicia's point too, where things are and where you're headed. So I think those are great messages. And Alicia, you said one thing I did want to follow up on. So the idea of going outside of your normal network. What tips would you have for someone that's trying to do that? Hey, I'm not comfortable reaching out to the VP of my division because I've never talked to that person before. How am I going to do that? Or even finding peers that are outside your organization. What are some tips you have for kind of broadening that network? Oh,
I was muted. Okay, sorry about that. This is a great question because this is something that I've worked on over years because I'm like a major introvert, believe it or not, and super awkward. But I think that I want to throw it right back to what Bonnie said, be curious. If nothing else, people love to talk about their experience. So have some good questions ready to ask. And, oftentimes, especially if somebody has risen to a VP level position or, something like that, they've gotten there through a network of mentors. So oftentimes leaders do make good mentors and they enjoy doing that type of thing. So don't be afraid to approach somebody, but be curious, have good questions. And then thinking again about that exchange, what do you have to offer? Well, as somebody who's at an IC level, right, you probably have some good feedback or insight to offer that the VP level isn't getting. It's incredibly valuable to have kind of that information flowing up and down the chain. And then even outside of your network, right, you have unique experience. You have a unique point of view that is valuable to somebody in another organization. So it's two things. It's the exchange. What can you offer, and what good, curious questions do you have that you can use to, kind of get information and get feedback from people outside of your network. And then the other thing I'd note is on LinkedIn, this is easy to do. See who that that could maybe connect you to somebody. That's always good to get a warm introduction. But even if you don't, you would take the risk. You would be surprised how open people are to sharing their experience and just having a conversation.
No, I think that's great, especially in the pre-sales community. So as you're looking for other pre-sales people, all of us have this natural tendency we want to help each other. So never feel bashful about reaching out to peers here as well. So going back to one of the questions from the audience, Bonnie, maybe you and Virgil would love to hear your takes on, how do you dive a little bit deeper into getting recognition for your team? It's one thing to say, hey, here's what we're looking to do, but how do you get the organization to align around that? So maybe, if you're walking into a situation that sales, product marketing is not used to leaning on pre-sales, not necessarily recognizing what we're bringing to the table, what are some of those steps that you may need to go through from the legwork perspective to build up that type of recognition?
Bernie, you want to go first?
So unpacking the question, I think there's a couple different things there, right? It's you are the manager. So I do think that there is some weightlifting that you need to do there to have a communication to understand, what is the team really bringing to the table? And similar to what I was saying about, you've got your win slides. Something we do here is every week we have a go-to-market meeting where the different departments get to showcase what's going on. So theoretically right there, you've got an open platform to highlight some of the different achievements outside of wins. So similar to what we were talking about earlier, to incorporate cross-departmental wins as well, right? What are we doing with marketing to evolve? And I can say right now that we're doing some evolution at our own company, right? How can we drive that success? Because I've got team members that are working on cross initiatives. And I hope I'm hitting the question there, because I don't know if I 100% nailed what the question was, but Virgil, I'll let you jump in there and potentially come back over the top.
Well, the two main things I'm doing today for my team is first making sure they are part of the marketing activities. I probably have been the first one to be so deeply involved in those actions. And I think the marketing realized that they can rely on pre-sales and that we are not just technical guy bringing, the laptop and making the click on the screen. We are able to talk, we're able to write, and we can make pretty amazing presentation. So this is why we can be a real part of the marketing event. And I'm also fighting when we do have manager meeting about recognition of all the famous award of the month or of the quarter or of the year. And usually companies are mostly looking at people who have been involved in huge deal. And the bigger is the deal, the bigger award you will get. And this is something I've been working on also to recognize people that have been working really hard for a long time, being curious, clever, bringing innovation in a deal. And at the end, it could be lost, not because of the pre-sales or of the technical win, but maybe it's also good to give some awards for people who are just amazing because they are amazing. And this is my job, my day-to-day job, to make sure that what they are doing in the fields is visible and known by the management, by the top management, not only because they are part of the winning team on some deals. That sometimes may be more politics than real technical challenge, by the way. But anyway, so.
No, I think those are both great points from each of you on the idea of, just like we keep talking about as individuals, how do you build up your visibility? As a team leader, part of your role is then, all right, how do we go do that for the team? How do I make sure the team is involved in these different activities? And sometimes that is fighting for the recognition and fighting for the realization that it's not just the, hey, we closed a big deal. So I think that's a fantastic ad, Virgil.
And just one thing, something we are not always thinking of the first time, but we're always celebrating wins and what went well. But sometimes you may have pre-sale that will find a defect in a solution or use case that is not working at all in this specific context. And if you are able also to share those type of information internally, say there is someone in my team who maybe will save every other pre-sales in the organization because he spots something specific in the solution, that also would be great. we need to celebrate what is working, but also share what is not working, because you found this issue, and it's a good news, because now it's a non-issue. We can work on it and find a workaround and stuff like that. So it's also a way to be an expert and to be visible and to be known in the organization. It's not only with what is working, it's also what is not working, and what are the lessons learned from any opportunity.
Oh, fantastic. So we have one other question from the audience. Someone who's not in pre-sales today, what's a piece of advice you would give to them on how to be visible, how to, like, as they're looking to move into that pre-sales role, what's a piece of advice maybe that we haven't talked about yet that you would offer them? So I'll throw that to you first, Alicia.
Man, that's a good question. Pre-sales is so multifaceted. There are so many different ways that you can kind of take your present experience and apply it to a pre-sales skill. I'd say, you know, because actually I came from a non-pre-sales role into this like 6 years ago. I'd say number one, I'll harp on it again, networking, right? Get to know the pre-sales community. Especially if you're kind of account facing today. I'm sure that you have folks that you can network with. Going back to, I think what Bonnie said at the very beginning, make your interests known, right? And like I said earlier, people love to share their experience. Get advice from the pre-sales folks in your network on, you know, what it takes and what to develop. And then the other thing I'd say is like, think about those things that it kind of takes to be a pre-sales professional, and highlight within your skill set today what you already have, right? So that's how I would kind of approach it, and then build an action plan around that. Like, how can you maybe help the pre-sales engineer on your account build the next demo or run the next meeting, right? Become a part of the process and find ways that you can start to collaborate and team together to increase your visibility. And also, again, make those interests known. I think Bonnie said it best in the beginning. That's like the most important thing.
Yeah. And Alicia, I'll come back on top because I think everything that you just said there was fantastic, right? What I would also say, I don't know, are you ready to go public with this, right? Utilize your manager if your manager is someone that you can entrust. I mean, I know with my team, I'm very proud and open to say, I want to encourage your career path, whether that's within pre-sales or without, right? We're always talking about coming into pre-sales because it's the best job in the world. But sometimes, you know, people find out they're not cut for it, or customer success in this example. So have your manager collect some information for you. Similar to what Alicia just said, if you're open to it and ingrained in it, see if you can start shadowing some of the calls so that you can get a better flavor of the real lives conversations. What's happening? Are you still super excited to be a pre-sales resource after the fact? Then continue to take those conversations with your manager so that you are being set up for success, but you're also not leaving the team that you're, you know, transitioning out of in a lurch, right? Come up with that plan, get it documented, start that foundation of the plan and go from there.
No, fantastic content. So I do want to start to wrap up here. And, you know, thank you again to all the panelists. We had a lot of great information. Just want to summarize some of the things that you heard today. First off, be visible. Don't be afraid to speak up, contribute anywhere that you can. Just keep in mind, it's not about that self-promotion. It's not just jumping in for the sake of being seen. You actually need to be adding value to the process. And also think about ways to improve your team, whether that's, you know, simplifying a workflow, sharing learnings that you're coming back from, you know, field experiences, giving that back to product, giving it back to marketing, hugely impactful. The biggest one, take the first step. You heard it over and over again. Stay curious. And that's everything about the rest of your business, how it operates, where you can add value into it. But it's also, you know, your personal skills in your networking, talking to other people. Always be curious in pre-sales. And of course, speak with your manager. Can't emphasize that enough. Talk to your manager about ways that you can start to contribute beyond your day-to-day role. And then finally, a big part of the overall piece of that, find and keep your focus. It's great to keep contributing. You heard it from several people. Don't ignore what you're supposed to be doing already, or don't get so visible that you get spread too thin and can't do things. And so the ways you can do that, you need to set goals for yourself. Even if that's just personal or with your manager, you need to be setting those goals and of course, making sure you're exceeding them. And then back to the curiosity piece, be a continuous learner. Keep building up your personal skills, learn more about your company, your competitors, learn about your prospects out in the industry that you're trying to present to. All of those are key steps that it's going to take for you to increase your visibility, both within your own team, your own organization, and then ideally even external to your organizations as well. So thank you all very much for being here today. Do want to launch our last poll here just to understand, how did we do? Give us a rating, let us know how we performed. Did we meet your expectations today? And then ideally, we're going to see you at our next event. As we're letting people answer that, as we're starting to wrap up, I just want to do a quick plug again for the PreSales Collective. Come out and join us, presalescollective.com. You can join into our Slack community. We're over 7,000 strong there. It's a great place to do some of that networking that you keep hearing about. Ask questions, meet people that maybe are outside of your organization to learn more about what's happening outside of your four walls. Is your organization doing the right thing? Are there ways that you can get more visibility? The PreSales Collective is always looking for member contributions. So it's a great way to start to understand what else is going on out there in the broader pre-sales world. And then, as we've said, getting involved into it. So please come join us out there. Would love to have you as a member and contributing. Finally, want to say thank you to all of our panelists, Alicia, Virgil, Bonnie. Thank you so much for your time and being here, presenting a great conversation. If you have follow-up questions for the panelists or just want to hear more, again, come join us out in Slack, continue the conversation there. Always happy to answer more questions. So thank you everyone for being here, and we hope to see you at the next webinar. Bye everyone.